Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather McMillan Knockeye, and I'm honored to welcome you to a conversation with the Lumbee Tribal Chair candidates. This conversation is sponsored by Lumbee Tribal Citizens United and is powered by Verizon Blue Jeans. Tonight's format has been designed by Lumbee Tribal Citizens United. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide an opening statement. Afterwards, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question shaped from those submitted by tribal members in advance. The questions have not been shared with the candidates before they are provided to the candidate by me tonight. All right, let's begin. Please welcome our tribal chair candidates, Mr. Corbin Eddings, Mr. John Lowry, Mr. Ron Oxendine, and Ms. Teresa Locklear. Thank you all for being here. At this time, we will start with opening statements. You each have 2 minutes. We'll begin with Mr. Corbin Eddings.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Corbin Eddings, your candidate for chairman of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina. I would first like to thank the organizing group that put this event together. Thank you all for your hard work and diligence on this. Thank you to the tribal members that are joining us this evening. I have 2 minutes to tell you about who I am, so let me go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Corbin. I live here in the Mount Airy community with my wife, Misha Eddings. Misha and I have been married for 26 years. We have 2 sons, Kaden and Brant. I'm a lifelong resident of Robeson County, with the exception of 5 years that I spent in the United States Marine Corps. Mentioning the Marine Corps, I've got to go ahead and mention my brothers and sisters who all served in the military as well. We have a combined 70 years service in the military. We're the proud children of Randolph and Catherine Eddings of the Red Banks community. I mentioned I'm currently a member of the Tribal Council. I serve as the District 8 representative. I am also the vice chairman. I've been on the Tribal Council for the past 5 years, and I've been able to witness a number of great things and a number of things that we can improve on. So in the next coming administration, what I look to do is to reach out to you folks, our members, for information, for communication. I want to strive to work together with you all for a better government for all our people. Thank you for being with us again. I look forward to discussion tonight.
Thank you. Mr. John Lowry.
Thank you. I want to take a moment to just thank everyone who helped put this event together. As someone who helped pull together our 2015 Tribal Chairman Forum and was also a co-moderator, I understand the time and dedication that you guys have put into making this event possible. And thank you for that. Thank you for this service. I've spent a majority of my professional career working on tribal policies and programs and working with tribal nations across this country. This experience has allowed me to better understand our role as a sovereign nation and how to protect our sovereignty. Potential positive impact we can have not only on our citizens but our neighbors as well, and understand the importance of leveraging our resources and influence as a tribe at the state and national level. As I have worked with policymakers in Washington, D.C. and tribal leaders across the country, I want to be in a position to utilize this network in order to establish government-to-government relationships with other tribes and to gain our full federal recognition. I'm passionate about our people, about our tribe, and my passion drives me to see the long-term future of our people, not just tomorrow, but 20 to 50 to 100 years into the future and where we need to be. I want to take this experience and my passion and bring it into this role as chairman, where I will use it to serve you, citizens of the Lumbee Nation. I humbly ask for your support.
Thank you. Mr. Ron Oxendine.
Good evening, everyone. This is Ron Oxendine. I really appreciate everybody participating this evening. I look forward to answering the questions that will help everyone understand how we can move our tribe forward and make our tribal members better participate in the activities that the tribe actually is conducting. I'm from Wakulla, North Carolina, and I've spent my whole life pretty much in the defense industry. I've spent the last 26 out of the last 27 years in the Washington, D.C. area, conducting business with the federal government and the military. But I had the opportunity to move back home last September. So I've been back it for a year. But over the last 10 years, as a lot of people know, I've had an interest in helping our tribe. So I went home and encouraged the tribe to start working on some economic development activities. And we have worked with the tribe and the tribal council and tribal administration in order to make that very effective over the last 11 years. I look forward to assisting everyone with issues of housing and energy, our veterans. I really love supporting the area, supporting our people, and I look forward to serving you as your tribal chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa Locklear.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Locklear, and I'm a resident of Pembroke, North Carolina. I have lived here most of my life. I am a mother of two. I have a son, I have a daughter. My son is Tony Locklear. My daughter is Melissa Locklear. I attended UNCP, where I received a pre-law degree and graduated in 1997. I received a bachelor in social work. I graduated in 2009, and I received my master's in social work in 2010. I have served on different chairs in Robeson County. My current profession is with the Robeson County Public Defender's Office, where I am an investigator. I also work as a licensed clinical social worker with Riverbend. I have been with Robeson County Public Defender's Office for 20-some years, and I plan to retire November the 30th of this year. I will continue to work only part-time as a licensed clinical social worker. I feel that my professional life, my past experience, and my personal experiences have prepared me to be your next tribal leader. And I would ask that each and every one listening and sharing with your family members that you would support me to be your next tribal chairwoman.
30 seconds.
Thank you all. Tonight, our first question is not a topic that we have shared with the candidates, but it is the most important subject you're going to have the opportunity to address tonight. Candidates, what does sovereignty mean to you? You each have 2 minutes to respond. Mr. Ron Oxendine, we're going to begin with you.
Interesting question. I really appreciate the opportunity to go first. What does sovereignty mean? Normally, I think anytime someone thinks about sovereignty, you think about a whole unit. And one of the most interesting things that I find about our tribe is, we are scattered all over the United States of America. We're not living on a reservation. We are a very independent tribe, but it is very important that we all work together and share our heritage, work together to help our elders, to help our kids, veterans, and service all of our people that are in need. And I think the sovereignty aspect of just the unity of the Lumbees, I've seen that throughout my career and throughout my life all over the world, because no matter where you go, you'll see Lumbees in various places espousing the idea that they are, in fact, a member of the Lumbee tribe. And our sovereignty helps us to try to support our people, work as a tribal organization and an administration. And I think that is important for us as we look towards Washington, D.C., as we look for federal recognition and look for those benefits to service our people, that they look at us as one unit and one group
seconds.
of people. So it is very important that we think of ourselves as a team and work to make sure that we present the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina as a team to the public and to our government officials for us to continue to better our life here in Robeson County. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa Locklear, could you please answer the question?
Sovereignty to me means governing ourselves as a Lumbee tribal group. It means providing and receiving services for all the members of the tribe, providing services also to those tribes, not being governed by the federal government, but following the rules and the regulations that's been provided by the federal government. Sovereign means being able to have your own court system, being able to place laws and policies in place that would benefit all the members of the Lumbee tribe.
Thank you. Mr. Corbin Eddings.
1 second. 1 second. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Sheila. Thank you, Ms. Heather, for that question. Sovereignty to me means that basically we decide. We as a tribal government, we as a group of people, we make the decisions. We decide who members of the Lumbee tribe are. What does it mean to be a member of this tribe? We decide, as Ms. Teresa said, our court systems. We decide those laws. We developed our Constitution. I've sat in on countless council meetings over these past 5 years, and we'll be having various discussions, whether it's related to the budget or a study that's coming forward or whatever it might be. And you'll hear phrases like, well, I work with the county, and this is what the county does, or what does the state do? And I'm not saying that we don't need to look to those folks and take that information, but it's always kind of stuck with me that that's not who we look to. We look to ourselves and we look to our people to help us make those decisions. It's good to consider, things that the county might be doing or the state or the federal government might be doing. But what sovereignty means is that we, the Lumbee people, make those decisions for ourselves. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. Mr. John Lowry.
Thank you. Sovereignty is our ability to govern ourselves. Sovereignty is the ability for us to make our own rules, make our own regulations, take care of our people, to take care of our nation, take care of our tribe. That's what sovereignty means. And what's even more important than sovereignty is us actually protecting our sovereignty, protecting it from others who wish to do us harm, protecting it from those who wish to take away from us. We have to understand that as a tribal nation, that we have to protect our territory. We have to protect our citizens. We have to protect our programs and policies. And in order to be a truly sovereign nation, we have to work every day and strive every day to take care of our people, each of our people, whether in the territory or outside the territory. So sovereignty is the ability for us to take care of ourselves, to govern ourselves, to make the rules and regulations that we need to govern our people. But we also have to also be cognizant of making sure that we are protecting our sovereignty each and every day from threats seen and unseen. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, the topics we have shared, to begin with the topics we have shared with the candidates. Our first topic is housing. As many of you know, housing is one of the most prevalent issues facing our tribe and that we often discuss as tribal members. So the question is, what are your short and long-term goals for the housing program? Ms. Teresa Locklear, we're going to start with you.
And providing assistance to outer territory members, which I will discuss later on. I would also make the list of the current list for housing. I would shorten that list. And I would have something in place to shorten the list to provide services to our residents who qualify, or our members who qualify for housing.
Thank you. Mr. John Lowry, could you provide us with an answer, please?
Yes, ma'am. Regarding short term, one of the issues that I've heard a lot, I've been out and about, is the access to the rehab program. And what I've heard, especially from my elders, from my grandparents, and grandpas, is that they cannot access the rehab program because they have too much in assets. So at this moment, with regards to the rehab program, short term, I want to do away with the asset requirements, the asset criteria that currently keeps our elders, keeps our veterans, keeps those with disabilities from access to rehab. So if grandma or grandpa has 4 or 5 acres of land in their name, they have too much in assets. So we're actually punishing those who have ownership in land, those who have saved some money. We're penalizing them. So I want to do away with assets being part of the criteria for individuals to receive rehab. Grandma should not have to sign away her land in order to get her roof fixed. Grandpa should not have to sign away his land, sign away his car in order to get his in order to get the plumbing fixed in his house. So that's definitely a short-term fix that can be done probably on the first day that I take office. Long-term, I want to see more single-family communities built. We have a lot of young Lumbees who are coming up. They want somewhere to live, and we have the opportunity to provide them with housing options. We have an opportunity to create safe neighborhoods for them to raise a family, and that's something that I think that we can start planning now and pushing forward into the future.
Thank you. Mr. Ron Oxendine.
Thanks for that wonderful question. First, let me say, with all the travels and all the discussions that we have as we travel around the community, I want to make it clear that I believe there is a housing problem in the way we're managing the organization. So one of the first things I want to do is to actually review all of the housing policies and figure out how to better or how to get more services to more people. I think that is very important because everywhere I go, everyone is complaining, I can't get qualified or I have too much assets. And that doesn't make any sense either, but it's very important that before we address issues about housing, we have to know what the policies are. And I think a top-down review of that organization within the tribe must be done. And then we need to go ahead and explain what those policies are to our people. So you can encourage them to come with the qualified paperwork, the necessary things that they need so that they are in fact qualified to receive the services. It's very important that we get services to elderly, disabled, veterans, also to single parent families. I want to understand how they all fit in the scheme of things. I also want to work on a housing budget, not only just myself and the tribal council, but to allow other members of our tribe to work on where we're going to spend the money, how we're going to spend the money, and do whatever we can to better support more people. That's the important part. And those are the things I'll do very early in my tenure as the chairman.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Corbin Eddings.
Thank you, Heather, for that question. One of the things that I want to speak about tonight, not just as it relates to housing, but in so many areas, is communication, communication, communication. Anyone who follows me on social media knows that I'm big on promoting information, resources, whether those are tribal or otherwise. So one of the things we've got to do is work on communication. Before I say very much, though, I do want to give a shout out to our housing department. Those folks, I have got to say, having worked with them for 5 years, have done an outstanding job. Having worked through Hurricane Matthew, Hurricane Florence, and during this COVID situation, the rehab waiting list is currently at the lowest that it has been in quite a number of years. So Short-term goals. One of the things that we're dealing with currently are lack of contractors. We're just not able to get enough qualified contractors bidding. We've got to do some contractor outreach to get more qualified contractors bidding. Along with that, we've got to get folks going to work for those contractors. One of the issues we've got short-term, contractors are getting bids, but they're not able to get folks to go to work. So I implore you, those who are watching, if you have someone in the construction business, please get those folks on the job as quickly as possible. Get them to come out to the tribe now. I believe it is open for qualified bidders to begin bidding on doing some of that work for us. That would be my short-term goal, was trying to get some more outreach going. Long-term goals, we've got to look at more information being put out. We've got to make sure that we do that, as well as some additional housing options. We've talked for some time about small frame homes. We're doing mobile home replacements, but those are single wides. We've got a number of folks that are in homes that just don't want to move into a single wide. We need to look at changing that, going to some 800 to 1,000 square feet homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. To make any of our plans progress and to improve the lives of our tribal citizens, economic development is extremely important. Other than 8A business opportunities, what are your plans to bring in more unrestricted income revenue to the tribe? Mr. Corbin Eddings, we're going to start with you.
1 second, please. 1 second, y'all. Okay, Mr. Eddings, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Heather, could you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. Other than 8A business opportunities, what are your plans to bring in more unrestricted revenue to the tribe?
Well, there's a number of things that we need to be looking at in terms of economic development. Having chaired the Economic Development Committee, I believe that was back in 2019, we looked at a number of different options. One of the things that we're looking at now is an online store. Now, that's something that's very small. It's not going to bring anywhere near the type funds that we're looking at in terms of 8A, but we need to begin to capture a lot of that. I think all of us will have to say we have some sort of Lumbee apparel. I doubt very seriously that apparel came from the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina. We need to begin to capture that so that we can market that not just to our people, but nationwide. That would be one of the biggest things. Then we also need to begin to partner with local small businesses, investing in their business, listening to what those investment opportunities are for us as a tribe so that we can then begin to take advantage. We are in the best position as we look out among our tribal communities to see where the gaps are, to see where the things that are missing, and we have an opportunity to reach out to these people, to listen to their ideas, and to begin to join forces with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ron Oxendine, what are your plans to bring in more unrestricted revenue to the tribe?
Some of the most important things as I watch other tribes conduct business, they like to start businesses that basically generate their own unrestricted funds. We as a tribe sit on the corridor of Interstate 95 as well as the 74 corridor, and there are opportunities for the tribe to start businesses that are on, as an example, on one of the exits to put stores or a country store, I like to call it, but where we could actually sell our Lumbee type traits, our products, our art, and just be able to hit a market of many people up and down the Interstate 95 corridor. We need to be looking at things like starting our own movie theater. We need a slaughterhouse that the tribe could run. I don't like seeing our farmers and ranchers, if you call them that, to take all of their beef up to Greensboro when we should be processing beef here and raising beef with ownership of the tribe. So we need to take a look at those things. Put in activities at the cultural center, maybe a water park, maybe some activities like a giant slide, anything that will generate unrestricted funds, but it should be those things that are owned by the tribe. I'd also like to see an expansion of our outdoor drama location. We should be able to build that to maybe a 1,500 seat and start having concerts and bring in some people that can actually cause our folks to come out and enjoy the cultural center more. And those are the kind of things that I would like to see, is just creating businesses owned by the tribe that will in fact generate monies for
Time.
ourselves.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa, what are your plans to bring in more unrestricted income to the tribe?
I would begin by building a correlation with the town of Pembroke, UNCP, LRDA. I feel that if you build relationships, that you can bring in more revenues. I also think that turning the culture center, the Lumbee Tribal Culture Center, could bring in more money for the tribe. But we would have to go and get the law changed so that the money would not be used back in the culture center, but could be used as unrestricted money. I think that we could have canoeing, we could have fishing, we could have concerts out there. I would like to see a golf course put back out there, gospel singing, and other activities. I also think education is key. You have to have a workforce that can work the jobs. We need to start focusing on our small businesses and encouraging more small businesses in the areas, in the different areas and communities. If you bring in more small businesses and focus on those small businesses, you bring in larger businesses. And larger businesses bring in more employment for our members. I also believe that we need to encourage our young people to have education. We need to have people who are in different trades, who have
30 seconds.
skills that they can provide the necessary workforce that's needed to bring in these businesses.
Thank you. Moving on, as tribal chair, we're electing you.
You
Yes.
missed John.
Did I miss John?
Yes.
My apologies, Mr. Lowry. What are your plans to bring in more unrestricted income?
You're all right. Thank you very much. Definitely want to follow up on what some of the others have said. The cultural tourism is our way to go as far as generating funds pretty soon for our tribe. We are sitting here on the corridor of 95 and 74. We do need to be directing people to our cultural center. We do need to expand our cultural center to bring in folks to want to see additional plays, to want to attend cultural events at the culture center. We do need to work to expand the use of our river. We have a river there that if it's cleaned out, if it's clean, people will come, they will kayak, they will canoe, they will go fishing. We will take our families there. People will come from all over the place to utilize and to use our river. So we have an opportunity there working with local partners and state partners to get our river into a place where individuals can get on it and they can float down the river from Warrenburg in Scotland County all the way down to Hope County. Into Robeson County on down into Columbus County. So we got to think about cultural tourism. We got to think about our farmers, working with them to establish a co-op, have an opportunity to help them market and brand their products so that they can grow their stuff here, and then we can help them send it out. The same thing with our artists. We have an opportunity to work with our artists who are building things with their hands every day, and we can help them have a place where they can sell it, they can market it, and we can help drive that for them. I do also think as far as a longer term view around generating additional revenue is we can work with some of our federal partners to get small business loans, and so the tribe could be in the process to lend out funds to entrepreneurs, and we will be able to generate funds off of the loans that they pay back. So I do think that we do need to focus on cultural tourism and also helping our folks establish their own small businesses.
Thank you. Again, as tribal chair, we're electing you to lead all Lumbee people to help us sustain our lives in a variety of ways. Considering that the tribe does not currently have programs that support sexual violence, domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and addiction, what would your administration do with the support of council to resolve these issues in your first 180 days? And how would you resolve the issue around the collection of correct data for our tribal members? I'm sorry, Mr. Lowry, but I'm going to have to pick on you. Could you take this question first?
Could you repeat the question, please, from the beginning?
From the beginning. Considering that the tribe does not currently have programs that support sexual violence, domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and addiction, what would your administration do with the support of council to resolve these issues in your first 180 days? And how would you resolve the issue around the collection of correct data for our tribal members suffering from these occurrences?
Let me first say that domestic abuse, sexual abuse, it's real. Our people are dealing with it every day. If you work in the school systems, you probably know a child who is dealing with something like that. If you have a large enough family, you have enough friends, you know somebody who's having to deal with domestic abuse. It's real. It's a cancer. And at the same time, it's one of those issues that we really don't talk about. You know, we try to keep it on the hush, and we don't want anyone to know, but it's real. And so while the tribe doesn't have a lot of current resources, the tribe doesn't have to rewrite the wheel. The tribe doesn't have to get into the business of establishing programs. There are a lot of people within our four-county region that are doing stuff in this area around domestic abuse, sexual assault, child abuse, and we need to just work with them. We need to work with them to promote their programs, to promote their resources. The tribe has buildings, we have bodies, and we can definitely assist them in reaching our folks. So right now, the tribe does not have to rewrite the wheel. We do not have to establish our own programs. We just need to be good partners with those who are already doing something in this field, in this arena, and let's help them push and get out the word. Now, as far as attaining data, I'm assuming that the state and the feds do a lot of that collection of data, and if they're not doing a good job of collecting data on our Lumbee people and on American Indians overall, we need to push them. We need to push them and make sure that they are collecting our data, that we know our numbers. They have the resources to gather it, and we need to demand that they do it and that they get it to us so that we know what our people are facing, and we can put those resources to use to helping those individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa? Well, I think we have the question on the screen. Ms. Teresa, what would you do to work with council to resolve these issues in your first 180 days, and how would you resolve the issue around the collection of correct data?
Being a licensed clinical social worker and working as an investigator with the Robeson County Public Defender's Office, I'm aware of these issues. And we see these issues quite frequently. So being a licensed clinical social worker, I would begin by going out in each community and providing education. Education is key. We need to make our communities aware of what to look for, and we need to make women aware there's a safe haven. We need to take and find facilities that we could place these women in so that they feel safe. We need to help them fill out the paperwork, the necessary paperwork to be able to go into the court system, to get restraining orders against people. Human trafficking is new in this area, and there are some grants that are available for the human trafficking. Sexual assaults, I think that we need to educate women and make them feel comfortable going into the court system and being able to testify against someone who has sexually assaulted them. A lot of women are afraid to come forward and say that they've been sexually assaulted. I also think that domestic violence, the same situation rises with domestic violence. Women are afraid, and we have men who are actually in domestic violence situations. And those men and women need to be made aware of what they can do and how to go about bringing charges and restraining orders. Now, as far as gathering data, we would need to start our own data system and employ people in the tribal communities to gather this information and share it.
Thank you. Mr. Eddings. What would you do in the first 180 days to resolve these issues, and how would you resolve the issue around collection of correct data?
Yes, ma'am. Just as a matter of information, going back to the communication topic I talked about earlier, we are in the process currently of making our transitional housing available for domestic violence situations, so be on the lookout for that coming very soon, as well as we also have a medication-assisted treatment program that's currently ongoing for those that are in need, located beside First Bank there in Pembroke. There are a number of different things that we need to look at. There are various agencies already throughout the 4 counties. However, one of the things that has really caught my eye are some folks that I've been speaking with over this past year. There are a number of different grassroots efforts. I'm sure we've all heard or may have seen Stop the Pain recently. We may have heard something about the Red Justice Project. We may have also seen Shatter the Silence. I think we need to bring folks like this who are already out there working. There's a group called We Are Union Chapel Strong. They stand out at Manor Center and at Union Chapel intersection on many a Saturday, just raising awareness, passing out Narcan, doing a number of different things. We need to reach out to people like this, bring those folks on board, let them know that we see them, that we sense their passion, and that we want to begin to work with them, trying to work with them along with these other agencies. Now, in terms of collecting data, we do need to reach out to our county, to our state, to federal levels, to make sure, as others have already said, that we speak with them, collaborate with them, that we maybe don't push them, but we work with them to get this accomplished so that we can then have consistent, factual information on what's happening with our women. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oxendine, what will you do in the first 180 days to address these issues, and how will you resolve the issue of around the collection of correct data?
Well, one of the first things that I would like to see is, I think it's very important that we have a facility that can service all of these issues. And I'm not talking about a huge facility in one location. I think every county of the 4 counties in our territory, they all need facilities to address these issues. Not only that, I think it's important that we bring in qualified people that have the skill sets and the education to actually run these state-of-the-art facilities to address the issues that we're talking about, with sexual harassment to to drugs. And drugs seems to be a prevalent discussion that I run into. And I've had many people talk about we need a facility so we can rehab people. Because, as you know, we are in a situation where the county has a drug problem. I hear that in every meet and greet that I'm in. People want to be able to take care of our own. So having facilities in each of the 4 counties, I think, is something that is important. But we're going to have to go out and get grants. I think we don't have enough grant writers that are in the tribe. I know we have a MAT program, for example, to address and help 63 Lumbees with opioids and drug issues. That's not enough, clearly.
30 seconds.
We need to really put emphasis on putting facilities in place to help our people. Again, educate. We got to educate folks. We got to get data from our social services. We got to work with the sheriff's department. We just need to get a lot of counselors in that can also help people in these situations understand what is needed to take care of themselves, but also how to take care of their families.
Thank you. As almost everyone on this call is aware of, since the late 1800s, our tribe has fought and confronted the issue of federal recognition, its lack thereof, or the federal recognition that we do have. It plagues us. It has plagued our ancestors. How will you, your administration, and council work to achieve full federal recognition? Mr. Oxendine, we're going to start with you.
As I understand it, was introduced last April by our House of Representatives and in the Senate. And as you know, that was unsuccessful. We need to continue to seek federal recognition because of the amount of resources that would come into our tribal area and help our Native Americans with the significant amount of dollars that would come for us to provide services to our people. I think it's important that we go out and get the folks that have been working on federal recognition. And I'll just say some lobbyists. We need to have someone who is lobbying for our tribe in Washington, D.C. We do have unrestricted funds that are now available in the tribe so that we can have someone working this on a full-time basis. And I think the administration, Chairman Godwin and the lobbyists and the work that he's done seeking federal recognition should be commended. But it is a steep challenge that we have to continue that fight. It's not something that I'm going to promise during my administration, but I will promise I will fight every day to seek federal recognition. It's important to us and as a tribe that we have that recognition as we've been seeking it since the Lumbee Act back in the 50s. So those are the things that I would do with regard to federal recognition. And one last thing, I want to talk about, talk with other folks in the other states, some of their leaders, and not just our own leaders in North Carolina. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Eddings, how will you and your administration work to achieve full federal recognition?
Yes, thank you, Heather. As we all know, federal recognition has been an ongoing effort for quite some time. Since the late 1800s, we've been working on this. And to be honest with you, I've said this on a number of occasions, if it was just a matter of folks doing what is right, it would be done. I think we can all agree that just doing it because it's right is probably never going to happen. We have done some great things recently. We have made some great strides with the pro bono work that we've had done, but we've got to invest funds moving forward. We'll never be able to compete with some of those who are fighting against us financially. However, we've got to begin to put funding into that. Along with that, we've got to align ourselves with folks, honestly, Heather, such as yourself. When we talk about Indian preference, I really think that's an opportunity that the tribe needs to take advantage of. I know what you've been dealing with, and some may or may not, but we need to take advantage of any and every opportunity to assert ourselves, to align ourselves with individuals so that it might benefit them, but then ultimately benefit us as a tribe. So that's one thing. When we go and speak, I think we need to have already aligned ourselves with other tribes, Virginia, South Carolina, any number of tribes, anyone who's willing to listen, whether they're red or blue. This does not need to be a party thing. We need to be willing to speak to anyone who's willing to listen,
30
to
seconds.
get them on our side. So those are the things that I'm really looking at. And then ultimately, if we aren't able to get where we want to get by just a vote, there is the option to sue the federal government ultimately. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa, how will your administration and council work to achieve full federal recognition under your leadership?
Well, we need to continue to build upon the foundation that has already been laid for us. We need to build relationships, as Corbin has said, with other tribes. And I also think we need to bring in people like yourself, Ms. Heather, who are familiar with the procedure and what has occurred in the past and what needs to happen in the future to make us or to get us to be recognized. I also think we need to build relationships with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and get them on our side to push for us to become recognized as a tribe. I think we need to have community involvement. We need to have roundtables and bring in different people and sit down and talk about, well, what's the best way to go about bringing about this important, this is important to the Lumbee people. The members have fought so long, and it's time for us to put this in action. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to build a coalition. And I think it was Mr. Ron who suggested lobbyists. And I think that is a good start also, to bring in lobbyists who are going to go to Washington and lobby for us.
Thank you. Mr. Lowry, how will your administration and council work to achieve full federal recognition?
I will take a three-pronged approach to federal recognition. I do believe we do have to continue on the legislative route. We do have to be assertive and aggressive with our congressmen and our senators. We do need to bring in lobbyists. We need to bring in individuals who can help push us on the legislative side. I do think we can get it done on the legislative side, but we got to be assertive and we have to be aggressive. We have to put funds to it because pro bono sounds good and it works out well on small issues, but this is a large issue where individuals are putting a lot of money towards us in a negative way. And so we have to be able to stand up and we have to be able to push back. Also, I'm open to us suing the federal government. We have an opportunity to go through the judicial route based on things that have happened to us back in the 1930s. Corbin's already alluded to your work, Heather, and all the paperwork that has been found based on stuff that has happened in the 1930s during the Indian Reorganization Act, the promises that was made to us to put land into trust and to make sure that we were organized under the IRA. So we have an opportunity there to sue the federal government. And I have no problem doing that. I have no problem with us stepping forward and taking them to court. At the end of the day, I think the federal government would rather give us full federal recognition than to have to pay us all the money that they would owe us if we went all the way back to the 1930s with interest. Also, I do think there's opportunity to work with the current administration, Biden White House, also Deb Haaland there at the Department of Interior through some type of executive action. So the president has the authority to put us on the recognition list, or at least to take the steps to put us on the recognition list. And the president and the Department of Interior have a opportunity to take funds and put them towards us, and ask Congress to pass legislation that would put funding towards the Lumbee tribe. So I'm open to all three approaches: legislative, judicial, and executive. And I think we need to be assertive and aggressive in all three of those.
Thank you. Our final topic is Lumbee interests outside of our defined territory. As many of you have alluded, we have tribal members who live all across the country and internationally even. The U.S. Census reflects a significant increase in urban Native American communities. For example, North Carolina has 4 urban Native American organizations, and we have a significant presence in the Baltimore American Indian Center. How will your administration support these needed and vital urban Indian organizations? Ms. Teresa, we're going to start with you.
I would start out by having roundtable conversations with all the chairpersons in these communities to find out what the needs are. Being from Robeson County and not being in those areas, you would need to find out what the community needs are. And in order to find that out, you would have to have roundtable communications. And I would use unrestricted funds to assist those organizations and whatever needs they would have. I would also like to have build a community building in those areas so that they would have locations where they can have community events.
Thank you. Mr. Lowry, how will your administration support these needed and vital urban Indian organizations?
I do think that we do have to conduct outreach, do have to go into these communities. As Ms. Teresa has said, we do need to hear from those individuals. As the tribe, as I've spoken before, as us being a sovereign entity, we need to take care of our members all across the country, all across the world. And so if we can offer services to individuals living in the cities, we need to do that as a tribe. I do think that there is an opportunity for us to establish a tribal liaison position that will serve, well, actually probably multiple tribal liaison positions that will serve in these areas, or at least serve members that are calling in from these areas. I do think that we have an opportunity to make sure that when someone calls from Baltimore, when someone calls from Greensboro, when somebody calls from Raleigh, when somebody calls from Atlanta, when somebody calls from Florida, that they are reaching somebody at the tribe who will be focused on them and their needs, with them being out of territory folks. I also think there is an opportunity for us to take services to them. So there's an opportunity for us to help with enrollment by making sure, by getting our folks out of the office and getting them to these urban organization areas, and making sure that they can do enrollment there. Or if there's other types of housing or other types of programming, we can take our individuals outside of the turtle and take them to these communities and let our people be able to fill out applications and to get information. So I do think that there's a number of ways for us to serve these urban areas. And I do think that we have to remember that we are a tribe. Remember that these individuals, just because they do not serve, they do not live in the 4 counties, they are no less Lumbee than us. So I've lived outside of the area. I understand what it's like to live outside the area. And so I will make sure that those individuals are heard, and I will make sure that we will do what we can do to bring services to them.
Thank you. Mr. Oxendine, how will your administration support these needed and vital urban Indian organizations?
Well, one of the first things, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a number of grant writers that are in the tribe. I think it would be important that we actually establish grant writers or hire grant writers to support these outside organizations as well. Right now, I'm currently in Washington, D.C., and I'll be meeting with our Lumbees here in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area tomorrow. I'm meeting with the Baltimore folks on Sunday. I was in Charlotte last week talking to and participating in a golf course with a lot of our Lumbees in Charlotte, hearing what their ideas were and what their needs are. We also have folks on our team that are in Greensboro tomorrow for the Greensboro powwow, helping them with enrollment. John brought up a great idea, which we've talked about in a lot of meet and greets. We need to reorganize enrollment and take it outside of the turtle. But more important, one of the things that I'm going to do very early is work with the tribal council and see about getting all of the enrollment online. There's absolutely no reason that we have to make a trip to Pembroke, North Carolina when you're living in Detroit, Michigan, or Washington, D.C. in order to get your enrollment card. All of us buy on Amazon. Technology is very secure. We can take classes online, which we all do. So there's nothing that prevents us from making the enrollment office have an online capability so that people, for instance, when they want to vote like we're going through now, can actually get online and get a card. We should be able to turn that around in 10 days. I'm going to be talking with Senator Stallings. Believe it or not, we have a Lumbee that's a state representative for the state of Maryland. And we're going to be talking with him on Sunday afternoon to get his ideas of what we can do better in servicing outside of territory organizations.
Time.
And I'm sorry, did you say time or?
Yes, sir. I said time.
Thank you. Mr. Eddings, how will your administration support these needed and vital urban Indian organizations?
Yes, thank you, Heather, for the question. As we all know, we as a Lumbee tribe are the largest tribe in North Carolina and, of course, the largest tribe east of the Mississippi. One of the things we've got to do is lead by example. We talk about trying to get our children self-sufficient. We talk about trying to make folks self-sufficient. And I'm not saying that the urban Indian centers need to become self-sufficient, but we need to do our part. If there's something that becomes available that the Lumbee tribe is aware of, we've got to make sure that we pass that information on, not just to these urban Indian centers, but to other tribes as well. I think the other tribes look to us for those type things, and it's our duty to do that for our fellow man. So those will be, that's one of the things that I think about. But then, we've gone through COVID recently, and it has brought a number of things to the forefront in terms of needs of out of territory. We've begun to do the rental relief. We're now about to start the mortgage relief, where we're able to help citizens wherever they're at. We currently do scholarships. We're looking to start down payment assistance. We're looking to start some housing vouchers. There are a number of different things that we're finally beginning to start to be able to do for out of territory. I was on a call with HUD a couple of months ago, and one of the things they talked to us about is that in order for us to begin to serve some of these out of territory members, we've got to do it with current funding. There won't be additional funding in order to do that. So we've got to think of innovative ways to pull those funds that maybe aren't being spent for whatever reason right now, to begin to do those things to help our out of territory citizens moving forward. Again, we talk about enrollment, and I've heard it, everyone's heard it, how difficult it is. The problem we've got right now is we don't currently have staffing that's available in that enrollment department to go around to these different areas. But I, like a number of others, do agree. It's something we've got to look at. There's got to be a better way. We talk about maintaining contact. It's not just a member maintaining contact with us. We've got to reach out and maintain contact with them. Thank you.
Thank you. A common thread among all of our answers has been money. We all seem to recognize that money is making a lot of these issues harder than they need to be. So let's return to our economic development topic. How will economic development achieved through your leadership increase employment opportunities and support the economic success of our small business entrepreneurs? Ms. Teresa Locklear, we're going to start with you.
Repeat the question again, Ms. Heather.
Yes, ma'am. How will economic development achieved through your leadership increase employment opportunities and support the economic success of our small business entrepreneurs?
Again, I think that you need to work with universities, you need to work with towns, you need to work with other agencies to bring about economic development. I think there's currently 14 incubator located in North Carolina, and you need to utilize these to help start up small businesses. Small businesses need encouragement from the community, from the tribe, not only financially, but they need to be made aware of other available resources that can help bring about the economic development in the communities. I think that we also need the workforce that's going to be able to go into these facilities and provide the services. We need to have training to help train people, the universities, community colleges. We need to make sure that our people have their GEDs or their high school diplomas and get them ready for workforce. Those are basically the ways that I see that we can build our economic development.
Thank you. Mr. John Lowry, how will economic development achieved through your leadership increase employment opportunities and support the economic success of our small business entrepreneurs?
Well, one of the first things we need to do is we do have an 8A company, LTE, and we do have 2 additional 8A companies coming as well up under that. Those 8A companies, we need to be in a position to work with RCC, to work with UNCP, to work with other community colleges to create the curriculum needed where we can train our folks locally. We can train our folks locally for whatever jobs OTE has, whatever jobs LITS has, and whatever job the other company has, which I cannot think of off the top of my head. But those companies are going to have to hire individuals. Our people can do those jobs. Our people need to be hired. And if they don't have the skill set right now, we can work with our local, as I said, our local educational institutions to create whatever curriculums needed so that our people can get trained and our people can get whatever jobs are available through those 8A companies. And I've heard someone say to me before, well, some of those jobs are out of state. Some of those jobs are, 3 or 4 or 5 hours away. Well, guess what? Our folks are getting on vans every Monday morning and they're driving out of here to do work in order to bring funds back home to their people. So no matter where these jobs are at, no matter where these jobs are created at through these 8A companies, we need to make sure that we have our folks trained and that our folks get first stabs at getting those jobs. Also, as far as helping our small businesses, once again, our 8A companies need to make sure that they are working with our small businesses, make sure that they're getting supplies from our small businesses, make sure if there's opportunities to do any type of a subbing out, that they are working with our local small businesses. I do also think that getting away from the 8A, I do think there's opportunity for us to help working with UNCP and others to have financial literacy classes for new and beginning business owners. There's always an opportunity. We have a lot of people who are entrepreneurial, but you got to be financially stable to have a successful business. And so I think the tribe can help push those types of endeavors. Thank you.
Time.
Thank you. Mr. Ron Oxendine, how will economic development achieved through your leadership increase employment opportunities and support the economic success of our small business entrepreneurs?
Well, I think in order to help our small businesses, the first thing they have to need is to understand how to run a small business. So you got to work with the hub organization with UNCP to teach them about the resources, and those resources are available through the university. Uh, some people may know Lumbee Tribe Enterprises was the first graduate from the hub center there in Pembroke, because of our growth in education and assistance we received in the hub. John mentioned the 8A companies. As we have heard, we as a tribe, the tribal 8As have sole source ability of $100 million. Individual small businesses, if they're 8A, for example, only have $4.5 million. But we as a tribe, using those 8A companies, should be able to bring on and provide subcontract work in significant amounts of numbers or revenue in order to really increase the past performance and size of the small businesses that we have in the local area. One of the problems we have is not working together as a group. All of our small businesses, in my opinion, they all have skills, they're unique skills, and whatever they do, they do. We have to get these folks working together as a group. So I would like to have a conference with all the small businesses very early,
30
talk
seconds.
about capabilities, exchange their capabilities, and then start to formulate a team with our tribal organizations and companies and bring these small businesses along. Also, we need to talk about ways to help them with finances. I think Mr. Eddings might have mentioned there's a possible maybe a credit union that the tribe owns, which would go back to the unrestricted funds that we discussed earlier. But we got to bring these resources. We're smart. Our skill sets.
For leadership, increase employment opportunities, and support the economic success of tribal small business entrepreneurs.
Yes, Heather, thank you for that question. I mentioned earlier that I was the Economic Development Chair back in 2019. I came on board the Tribal Council in 2017, and we had started an 8A a number of years prior. There's some questions on when that actually began to make steps, but 2011, 2014. But there had been a problem initially with communication. I talked about that a number of times already, but communication, information flow. But in 2019, we started a process of requiring financial records so that we just had better information going forward. The more communication, the more information, the more trust was kind of the mindset. I did not do that myself. There were some great folks that came before me and that served with me on the council to help us get that ordinance put into place. But in doing that, what we were able to do, prior to this year, we were bringing forward $25,000 a year in scholarships. This year, the budget that was just passed last night calls for $175,000 in scholarships moving forward. Just a great thing that I think we did with that. But what I'm leading to with this is there's some things going forward we need to do with, I talked about contractor outreach. We've got to work to bring some more contractors on board, some small businesses on board, making them aware of what it truly takes to work for the Lumbee tribe. We've just started the L56 construction company, which is if anybody out there knows, our folks know how to build. We all know folks that hang sheetrock. We know folks that frame, that weld, that do electrical work. There's some great opportunities coming forward pretty soon with L56 construction. We need to get back to the economic summits that we were having. We did a number of those prior to COVID, where we were able to bring those with that entrepreneurial mind together with folks that had opportunities, that had information on how for them to better get started. So I'd like to bring forward that economic summit again to the forefront for our people. Thank you.
Thank you. When we started, we noted that housing is one of the most plaguing of our contemporary concerns. The Lumbee Housing Program is the subject of a number of concerns, including the waiting list, and our most vulnerable citizens are not being serviced quickly enough. Home repairs going over the rehab dollar amount, home inspections not being accurate, and the lack of new home ownership being built. If elected, how will you work with the administration and the council to ensure these issues are resolved? Mr. Oxendine, we're going to start with you.
Well, housing obviously is the top priority that, our elders need. And I'm in constant support and discussions with problems that have resulted from rehab work that has been done on many homes. There's a problem where, they go out to do work, the contractors go out to do work and they don't complete. And they go back to the tribe and ask for a change order to get more money to go out and do the job. That is something that we got to stop. Bidders, when they bid a job, they need to bid and stick to that job. So I'm going to enforce them to actually stand on their feet and support their bids. It's very important that, if you, in the contracting world, if you bid something, you have to stand by your price. You have to stand by the quality of your work. And that's another issue. You hear a lot of complaints about the quality of their work. I think one of the things that we may have to do is go speak with HUD. I think HUD, from what I understand, is always asking us to come in with the lowest price. A lot of the contractors that want to work with the tribe have a problem with having to bid some of the low prices because it is so low that it actually deters the quality of work that their companies would normally perform. So you get a lot of business, which is some of the issues that Mr.
30
Eddings is
seconds.
bringing up. We don't have enough people there available to do the work. So you got to get people standing behind themselves, honoring their bids, and just going out and delivering quality support and quality service and quality building to our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eddings, if elected, how will you work with the administration and the council to ensure these issues are resolved?
Okay, I thank you for leaving that question up for me, Ms. Heather, because that is a fairly long one, so I'll try to address as much of this in 2 minutes as I can. In terms of the waiting list, as someone who gets an inch thick pack of paper monthly on what waiting lists look like, I'm going to have to stand by our folks on this. Our waiting list right now is probably as low as it has ever been. We will continue to work on that. I know it's difficult when you have issues, particularly if it's your mother, your grandmother, someone along those lines, your next door neighbor who's a senior citizen who needs repairs. One of the things that I really think we need to look at is currently the tribe is able to do emergency rehab work and then go back later to finish whatever might need to be done in the home. We need to take a different look at what we consider emergency rehab work, whatever that might be. It doesn't matter if you fix someone's floor if their roof's leaking. So I think we really need to make sure that we focus on getting roofs repaired, giving folks somewhere to take a bath, take a shower, things of that nature. Do that emergency work first. We also need to make sure that we're taking full advantage of the funding for those who are over that 80% income threshold. We currently are able to utilize a portion of our funding for that. We need to make sure that we're using all of that to service as many people as possible. We also may be able to look at some unrestricted funds, but there's only so much that you can do with it. We've got so many areas that we want to put the money. We want to put it with our veterans to aid them. We want to do things for our senior citizens. We want to do things for our youth with the Boys and Girls Clubs. So we've got to make sure that we're allocating that appropriately, and that goes to having the right team of people together to help make those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Lowry, if elected, how will you work with the administration and the council to ensure these issues are resolved?
There are a number of items here, and as Corbin said earlier, I'll try my best to hit on all of them that are there. As I said earlier in the forum, one of the biggest issues with regards to our most vulnerable citizens is the fact that we have this asset requirement. So once again, our elders are being hindered from being able to have housing rehab services because they have too much property. Their assets cost too much. So I want to do away with that requirement. So once again, our grandparents, our elders should not have to give up their land. They should not have to give up other types of property in order to get their roof fixed. So that is one way that we will move forward on that. With regards to the lack of new home ownership, we do have a home ownership program. Currently, I think the interest rate on that new home ownership program is 2%. Well, we all know that the cost of construction supplies has went through the roof. So right now, if a young couple is looking to buy a home, they are now going to pay more in construction costs than they would have 5-10 years ago, a year ago. So one thing we can do is we can actually look at cutting the interest rate in half within our new home ownership program to help and to encourage individuals to go through our home ownership program so that they can achieve that dream that they are trying to achieve. Also,
30
we need to get
seconds.
to the point where individuals are trusting the process. As others have said, there's some issues around contracting. There's some issues around change orders. Look, we need to change the process. We need to change the culture with regards to how that is carried out. We need to do a better job of inspecting homes, and we need to make sure that contractors do not get paid the full amount until the job is done correctly. And that would help, I think, with that process and help individuals trust the process more.
Time.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa,
The first
do you feel
thing
like
I
you
would
have
do,
with the administration and the council to ensure these issues are resolved?
the first thing I would do is go through the current applications that they have on file. I would want staff to call and verify that those people still need assistance. And the ones that don't need assistance, pull those out. I would also implement a point system where we begin with our elders, then we would go with our vets, then we would go with the disabled people, and then we would go with the members. I think a point system would work better, and we need to focus more on our elders. I would also, the construction part of it, I think we need inspectors who are qualified that can go out in the communities and inspect these homes and make sure that the work is being done the way it should be done. There's a lot of complaints about houses that have had repairs, and then they have to go back to the tribe and ask the tribe to send someone back out and redo the work. I don't think that we should be redoing work that should have been did right the first time. And in order to do that, you have to have inspectors who are qualified to inspect these homes. And accountability. We must have accountability with our people that's doing the work.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa. Back to federal recognition. Federal recognition will bring significant changes to our people. Implementing the changes that come with recognition will be overwhelming and lengthy. Explain how you would handle these challenges proficiently and expediently. Mr. Lowry, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Heather. I have thought about this question or this setup for a while. One of the things that I commend Chairman Godwin on is during the COVID crisis, he has done a good job of bringing in medical professionals, getting them online and having them to discuss steps that are need to be taken in order to protect our people to be safe. I think we need to try that same approach with regards to federal recognition. Not to be funny and not to sound funny, but a lot of our folks believe that if federal recognition happens tomorrow, that we're going to get this Indian check that we've been promised all of our lives. There is no Indian check coming down the pipeline. And so we need to bring in Lumbees who have worked in the federal government, Lumbees who have worked with other federal tribes, and bring them before us the same way that the chairman has done with our medical providers. And let's discuss what federal recognition looks like, how it will be implemented, and the timeline for things to take place. So federal recognition, once we get it, it's going to take some time to implement some of these programs. And the sooner we start educating our folks, the sooner we start communicating to our folks what all will come with federal recognition, and to be patient and to understand that these programs will come, but they will have to be set up, the better we will be as far as keeping our folks in the know and keeping them keeping them up to date and knowledgeable. So as I've said, we have a lot of Lumbees who have worked with other tribes. We have Lumbees who have worked in the federal government. They know what all
30 seconds.
They know what all federal recognition entails, and I think we need to start right now, as soon as possible, educating our folks on what federal recognition is and communicating with them and getting the word out so that they will know exactly what it entails and that they will know when and how the timeline will play out for our people.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa, How will you handle these challenges proficiently and expediently?
To begin with, we would have to sit down with council and discuss how we're going to implement policies and procedures. I agree with John that we would have to bring in other tribes that have already went through this process and sit down with them and see how they have implemented policies and procedures in their tribes. I also think that we would need community involvement to come in and sit down at a round table and talk about the needs in the communities and what we would like to see implemented in these communities. We would need to develop long-term and short-term policies and procedures that we would put in place for funding. We need to decide what strategies would increase our economic development. And it's like John said, it's going to be a difficult task at first because there's so much that has to be implemented and put into place. But it can be done if we utilize others who are knowledgeable and who have went through this process, and utilize our members who are educated and are aware, like Rob Jacobs, Rebecca LeClaire, people like this who can come and assist in this process.
Thank you. Mr. Eddings, how will you handle the challenges of federal recognition proficiently and expediently when they occur?
Yes, Heather, thank you for that question. There's already been some good information given. Of course, communication is always key. Communication with our members, communication with other tribes as we seek out for additional information, additional assistance. We've got to make sure that we have the right infrastructure in place. You know, we've talked about some of the missteps that we've made in this tribal government. Lack of communication has led to some problems for us initially with 8A. It's led to some problems with us initially and currently with housing and a number of other programs. So the main thing is that we've got to begin to develop that infrastructure, bring the parties together, the leaders together, to have those discussions now on how we're going to implement what federal recognition means to our people. As we communicate that to them, we've got to make sure that we ourselves as a government are ready for what it entails for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oxendine, how will you handle these challenges proficiently and expediently?
Well, one of the first things that come to my mind is that, you know, we have to identify when we get federal recognition, what are we actually going to receive? Is it all money? Is it services? It's going to be a multitude of things. It's not just, you know, money that we're going to receive. In addition to that, one of the biggest problems that I hear with federal recognition or recognized tribes is that they all get checks. And when they get checks, they have no incentive to work. They have no incentive to go to college or go to a community college to get a skill set. And it damages our kids because when they're 18, they think they're going to get a check for the rest of their life, which if we get these services that would occur, and they have no incentive. We have to make sure that would not happen with our tribal members. The way you do that, it's all about education. We're going to have to understand what these services are, how we're going to put together the distribution of funds, if that's what we need to do. But we're going to have to put a team together of people from the council, people from the community that are smart, money managers, for example, and we're going to have to develop what the pros and cons are of how the best way to handle an influx of services and money that will come into our tribe, and just use our elders and people that have the experience to really develop a good plan so that we can manage the distribution and providing those assets to our people across the board. And federal recognition, not necessarily in our own territory, would it impact out of territory folks as well, because they would be Lumbees too. So I think it's communication and putting together a committee that could actually develop a plan, talking with other tribes as well that have been there, and come up with a plan for our tribe so that it is beneficial for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Our people are our greatest resource. It is imperative to provide programs that prepare our Lumbee youth and young adults to be successful. Beyond the current programs offered, what development opportunities will your administration implement to support the success of our future generations? Mr. Corbin-Eddings, we'll start with you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Heather, one of the things that I really would like to see us begin to offer more are more culturally relevant programs to our young people. We need to make them more aware of maybe some things that our folks did in the past, some things that we'd like to get back to doing. We're currently offering some culture classes, but I think it's something that we as a people need to come together on and decide what we want to offer in those cultural and history classes. We need to make folks aware of what our folks have gone through, of what have brought us here today, to give them any kind of appreciation. We talk about, I want folks to be proud to be Lumbee. Well, I want folks to be proud to be Lumbee, to be proud to be of their tribal government, but also to understand what it means to be Lumbee. So I think that's one of the programs I'd like to see. And I'm not talking necessarily about always promoting powwow dancing or drumming. Those things are great. Love that. Enjoy that. But just talking to our folks more about what our history is, how we got to be in this place that we call Lumbee land, to be part of this Lumbee nation. So just to give them a greater appreciation of who they are and what their people have gone through. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa, beyond our current programs, what are your plans to provide development opportunities and implement to support the success of our future generations?
Well, as you said, we would continue to build upon the programs that are currently in place. But I also believe that we have a lot of grandparents who are raising grandchildren. We have a lot of parents who are on drugs and who are not spending time with our youth. So I think we need to focus on social skills and building self-confidence in our young children. I also think we need to be preparing our youth for the SAT, the ACT, writing essays, filling out college applications, and applying for FAFSA. We have students that don't have, and I know we have guidance counselors that are supposed to be doing this, but these are our children. We need to take more interest in our children and making sure that our children are going to be able to succeed. And in order to do that, we have to get in the communities. We can't sit at the tribe and provide these programs. You need to be in the communities, making sure that these children are receiving the benefits that are necessary for long-term goals for these children. In order for us to continue to be a Lumbee tribe, we've got to have our younger generation prepared for the future. And in order for that to happen, they've got to be educated.
Thank you. Mr. Oxendine, what are your plans beyond the current programs to support the development opportunities for our tribal youth?
Well, as a parent, one of the first things I'd like to do is take all the iPhones out of our kids' hands and force them to get back to communicating. I think one of the things that I see with my own 15-year-old daughter, she'll invite friends over and they'll sit in her bedroom on the bed together and they'll text in lieu of communicating and talking. That is one of the most needed things that we have to have. If you can't communicate, it is very hard for you to get educational skills, interfacing with the teachers, interfacing with the counselors, and it's very important that we try to get the desire back to teach our kids really how to communicate. And I think that's very important. But we also need to offer up other things that encourage them to get into sports, to get into the activities, get into the beta club, anything that will show them there's more than just internal for themselves. The other thing I would like to see is encourage them and identify early, are you headed to college? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to go join the military to develop a skill set, for example? Just about everyone who comes out of the military does have a skill set that is marketable, that allows them to have a job or a career after their military service. But again, you want to work with RCC and UNCP, get these kids in school, get educated, learn a skill set so that they can continue on into their future career. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lowry, we'll finally go to you. What are your plans for our tribal youth and encouraging their development and success in the future?
Well, one of the first things that we need to do is actually talk to our youth. We need to have a conversation with them. We need to listen to them. Too many times we sit around and we want to tell youth what they need to be doing. And when we actually need to listen to them because they know what they're facing, they know the things that they are going through. And so let's listen to our youth. Let's listen to those that are in high school. Let's listen to those that are in college. Let's talk to them. Let's find out ways that the tribe can support them and can promote them. There's an opportunity for us to work with the Indian education programs in 4 counties and also in our urban areas. Let's make sure that those Indian funds are going to our children and making sure that those school systems are doing what they need to do to make sure that our Lumbee children are taken care of. We also need to look at the opportunity of creating youth councils. We used to have youth councils a long time ago. So can we bring those back? We need to understand that our youth are our future. So they need to feel welcome. They need to know there's opportunities to do internships. There's opportunities to be here to do on-the-job type training with us here at the tribe. We need to be bringing our youth here and working inside the tribe. We need to want them to see that being an employee at the tribe is an opportunity. So we need to talk to them. We need to see where they're at, and then we need to go and we need to meet them. We have a lot of students. They're not all A students. They're not all B students. But we have good students out there. We have good children. We have good youth, and we need to be working with them, and we need to listen to them, and we need to create opportunities based on what we're hearing from them, and then we need to work with other programs and other resources to make sure that we are taking care of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. The tribe receives funding that designates how funds are administered. Many tribal citizens who qualify for services but reside outside of our territory are excluded from certain services due to the tribe's internal departmental policies. How will you and your administration work with council to implement service programs that are accessible and inclusive for all of our citizens in need? We'll start with Mr. Ron Oxendine.
No, that's a very good question. I like that question. Again, as I indicated, I am out of territory this weekend to talk to out-of-territory personnel and members of our tribe. And it is very important that, in my opinion, one of the first things we need to implement is to change our self-designation, working with our council that allows us to actually provide service to out-of-territory members. Someone that is in need in Baltimore, for example, if they have the need and meet the qualifications, and they are just like the people in need in Robinson County, Hope, Scotland, and Cumberland, why can't we as a tribe provide service to them? Maybe we need to have an out-of-territory office or liaison, if you want to call it that, so that we actually have the ability to understand how are people living out of the territory? What kind of conditions are they living in? How can we as a tribe help our Lumbees everywhere? I think that's important. Although the money that we receive is dictated, as I understand it, by the number of people that live in the 4 counties, that doesn't mean all that monies and support and services have to remain in those 4 counties. We need to look at out-of-territory individuals. And to me, a Lumbee is a Lumbee no matter where he is. And if they need assistance, we need to do what we can as a tribe to help them with their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lowry, could you address how you plan to implement service programs that are accessible and inclusive for all of our tribal citizens?
Yes, ma'am. As I've said before, I understand because I have lived out the territory, so I understand what it's like to be a Lumbee living outside. And as Mr. Ron just said earlier, Lumbee is a Lumbee, so we need to be working with them. I do think that there are some easy fixes within the administrative side of the house, but I would want to work with the council. I do think we need to open up down payment assistance, and I think that we also need to open up the home ownership program to out-of-territory individuals. I think those two programs are something that we can get off the ground pretty quickly, and that we can start marketing to those individuals outside the territory. As I've said earlier, I am also in favor of having a liaison for our individuals who are outside the territory. I believe if we have people designated that individuals living outside can call, or if there's an opportunity for us to actually have tribal liaisons hired and in these communities where we have a high volume number of Lumbees at, I think that would increase our opportunity to serve individuals outside the territory. So yes, I do believe that there are opportunities. I do think that we need to be smart in addressing them. I know that, as I think Corbin said earlier, that with regards to our HUD funding, we only get money for those that are inside the territory. But once again, we need to act as a sovereign nation, and we need to act moving forward to take care of all of our people, regardless of HUD funds. And as far as what HUD allows us to do
30 seconds.
outside the territory, we need to do what we can do administratively to serve those outside. So I'm all in favor of working with those individuals. I'm all in favor of making them feel included. I'm all in favor of reaching out to them and letting them know that no matter where they are, that they are still a Lumbee, and that we recognize them as a Lumbee, and we will do what we got to do to take care of them.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa, how will you make the programs accessible to our Lumbee citizens regardless of where they live?
To begin with, I would go before council and ask that the internal department policies be updated and changed. I also think that we could offer down payment assistance to out of territory members. We could also offer college assistance to out of territory children to attend universities or community colleges. I think that someone else has already touched on that instead of coming to the Turtle and getting your tribal cards, that you should be able to go online and get to update your tribal cards. I think that the classes for becoming a member of the tribe should also be offered online. There's just a number of things that could be changed to assist people who live out of territory.
Thank you. Mr. Eddings, how would you address these issues and make sure that our programs are inclusive of all tribal citizens in need?
Yes, Heather, thank you for that question. I, like many of you, have relatives that live outside of our territory. I myself lived up in New Hampshire for a number of years as a child. I remember back to my second inauguration at the tribal complex. One of the things I touched on that night was serving out of territory members. We have had numerous discussions over these past 2 years. I don't know if that's an advantage or a disadvantage for our inability to take action to this point. However, I fully support down payment assistance. I fully support student housing vouchers. However, I have to bring it to light that there are tough discussions. One of the biggest discussions has been, if we're going to service out of territory, are we looking to do that nationwide initially, or do we start with a pilot program? And if we start with a pilot program, what area do we choose? Do we go for Charlotte, Greensboro, somewhere here within the state, or are we looking more towards Michigan, Baltimore, Virginia? Where might that be? If you go back and listen in our tribal council meetings over the past number of months, consistently, that has been my statement, that we as a council have got to ultimately decide where. Not just decide where, but have reasoning for why we decided it. Because one of the first things that we know is going to happen is there's going to be those folks that are in territory that want to know why funds are going there, why they aren't going here, or there'll be out of territory members who want to know why it didn't go to their area. Whatever decision we make, we've got to have valid reasoning for doing it. We've got to come together. And again, as always, we've got to communicate. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all. We appreciate the candidates for joining us tonight. I can't speak on behalf of everyone who is Lumbee, of course, but I personally appreciate all the thoughtful answers we've gotten and the careful consideration you've given to all of our concerns. You now each have 1 minute to offer closing remarks. We'll go in reverse order this time. Ms. Teresa Locklear, you're up first.
I need 1 second.
Okay.
1 second, please. I'm sorry. Okay.
Let me begin by saying thank you to the other candidates who are running for tribal chair, and to Heather and others who have put this program together. It's important that we pull together and be a team. It doesn't matter to me who wins this election. I would hope ever who the next chairperson is, that they would take into consideration all the ideals the other
30
candidates
seconds.
have had. We've all got good ideals, and I think that if we work together, we can improve the outcome of what the tribe can be and will be.
Thank you. Mr. Ron Oxendine.
Yes, I'd like to go back and just address one thing with regard to federal recognition. As I've thought about it, one thing that I certainly would like to do is actually go out and visit Mr. Sneed out in the Eastern Band of Cherokees and understand why he fights us all the time with federal recognition. That's something that we definitely would have to do. I really like the opportunity to participate in this event. Thank you, Heather, Sheila, and the others that put it together. And thank you for all the members of our tribe that are participating and listening to the candidates. I think all these candidates are good folks. They're smart. They got great ideas. And I think whoever is elected as chairman need to tap into their expertise, because they all have great ideas. And we also have to touch base with the tribal council and our elders to pull in those ideas to make our tribe better than what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lowry?
Thank you. I do want to reiterate the appreciation I have for you, Heather, and the others who helped put this together. Thank you very much. As we have talked a lot tonight here about tribal programs, I just want to give a hat tip to tribal employees, because at the end of the day, no matter who becomes chairman, those individuals have to carry out the day-to-day responsibilities of implementing these programs. So I just want to thank the tribal employees for all that they do and all that they will continue to do moving forward. As you can see, we have a number of good candidates here tonight. Now it's up to you, the Lumbee people, to make a decision. I ask that you continue to look at us, to look at our records, to look at our experience, to look at our ideas, and to just look at our overall character and decide who you want to be the next chair of the Lumbee tribe. But thank you all for participating, and God bless you.
Thank you. Mr. Eddings?
Yes, Heather, thank you so much. Thank you to all the organizers. Thank you to those that are in attendance. Folks, one of my main goals as chairman is greater communication with all our members. Communication, 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 and more is going to lead to increased awareness of all the available resources, better member relations, and eventually an opportunity to provide a service. We're going to strive to increase member awareness regarding programs as well as qualifications. I'm going to support various ad hoc committees.
2 seconds.
As you begin to make your decision, I want you to know something. Corbin Eddings has a lifetime of community involvement. Under my administration, we plan to continue the great work that's been done. We plan to listen, to expand, and one thing I can promise you, you'll get someone who's prepared to lead as a servant to the people. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And thank you to our organizers, the Lumbee Tribal Citizens United, for hosting this wonderful event, and for those who attended. As Lumbee people, we're all here because of the wonderful people who came together to serve us and to provide us an opportunity to ask our candidates questions that we might not otherwise have had the opportunity. It's heartening to see that we've had such high attendance and participation, because without our tribal citizens, none of this would be possible or even necessary. The Lumbee Tribal Citizens United has asked me to encourage you all to vote. That's why we're all here. They want to remind everyone that tribal enrollment will close on October 8th. You cannot vote if you are not actively enrolled in the tribe, and so we want to encourage you to get that taken care of. Tribal citizens can request absentee ballots until October 8th so that you can vote if you're unable to go vote in person. An election day for all tribal candidates, both tribal chair position, and for your tribal elected council members, if your council districts are up for election, will be on November 9th. This is one of the most important opportunities that we all have a hand in. This is when we assert our sovereignty as Lumbee people. I hope to see you all at the polls on November 9th. I will be there, and I hope to see you all there. Thank you all for committing your time, both the candidates and everyone viewing tonight. Friday nights are our hard ask, and we appreciate all that you've committed here tonight. Thank you all, and good night.